you a songwriter? Are you looking to turn your songwriting passion into a full-time gig? Whether you are just at the start of your songwriting journey or a seasoned industry professional, this show is made for you. Welcome to The Songwriter Show, bringing together songwriting news, interviews, and community. Now, welcome your host, Sarantos.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to The Songwriter Show. I'm Sarantos, your humble host and fellow songwriter with a passion for crafting stories through song. As someone who's been writing lyrics for as long as I can remember, I know how every song holds its own unique story. That's what brings us together here tonight and every week to celebrate the voices behind the music we love. I'm so happy to have on the show tonight Gregg Stone. Gregg is a singer-songwriter and retired educator who's been fortunate enough to share his extensive repertoire with many live and virtual audiences, and serves as a co-coordinator of the Nashville Songwriters Association International's Pittsburgh chapter. He writes, performs, and produces music in a wide array of genres, but his favorite is the Americana-style story songs.
And now, welcome this week's special guest.
Welcome to the show. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm trying to enjoy the weather here in Chicago, but hopefully you're out in Pittsburgh, right?
Yes, and I'm sure we have similar weather.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us a little bit about your history here. Seems like you like being a songwriter, and you've done a few live performances, right?
Oh, yeah, several live performances, and it's been an interesting life. As you've already said, I'm retired, which will give you an idea that I'm not a spring chicken. But my life is interesting in that I started writing songs as a teenager and performed and wrote songs all the way through college until life happened. And then I basically just didn't have time to perform or write songs anymore. And so there was like a 35-year period where I didn't do anything at all. But then in my mid-50s, when work started to become a little more, let's say, cumbersome, I decided I needed something cathartic to get me through days of tension and whatever. And so I started writing again. And so for the past 10 or 12 years, I've been writing way more prolifically than I did as a teenager. And I've enjoyed it very much. And I love, as you mentioned, I love writing songs that tell stories and have a lot of imagery.
Wonderful. And what instruments do you play?
I play acoustic guitar. I have an Ovation, a couple of Ovations actually, and a couple of Martins, one of which was my mother's. My mother was a country music singer, and that's how I got my start as a teenager. She sat me down and taught me the basics on her 1953 D28 Martin guitar, which I still have. She handed it down to me. So I have several acoustic guitars, some acoustic electric, some just acoustic.
What was the first tune you learned how to play when you were younger?
Oh, boy. Probably Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash.
Love Johnny Cash, man. Oh, my God. Man in Black.
It was that or Ring of Fire. It was one of those two.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, that leads me into the next question. Dead or alive, which musician would you love to be in a room with and why?
Oh, boy. I've been fortunate enough to meet most all of the songwriters that I have admired the most. Probably the one I haven't met yet that I'd like to is a man named James McMurtry. James McMurtry is a current singer-songwriter who your listeners may or may not be aware of, who tells a lot of great story songs and has wonderful imagery and talks about the kind of the seedier side of life a lot of times. But he's a wonderful songwriter, and I'd love to just pick his brain.
Tell us a little bit about, you've done a bit of performing. Do you get nervous for a performance or not anymore?
It's funny, I never did. When I was young, my mother, as I said, was a country singer, and she played at, all the county fairs and carnivals and things like that. And she also was a disc jockey. And so she opened for or interviewed or whatever the likes of Johnny Cash and Buck Owens and all those country stars from the 1960s. And at the same time, when she would do carnivals and fairs, had to be personable around the people who came out to those shows, who could be, just very common people. And being around her and being around that as a youngster made me comfortable around people in general. And then I was fortunate enough to be, for a while, a child actor. And I guess I was too young to be nervous about being on stage at the time. And so I've never really been I've never had stage fright in my life. I guess I'm lucky that way.
Yeah, awesome. Tell us about your songwriting process. How does the magic happen for you?
Well, it varies. I often get, the standard question is what comes first, the music or the lyrics? For me, it's about a 50-50 split. Sometimes I'll come up with lyrics and then have to figure out a melody and chord progression to go with it. At other times, I'll have some music in mind and I'll play some things out and just put them on my phone or whatever. And I'll start to produce them. And if I decide they could use lyrics, I'll put lyrics to them. If not, they'll just be instrumentals. And I've written a lot of instrumentals, especially over the last few years.
Is there any kind of education or training that you recommend to people to do kind of what you're doing?
I have a lot of faith in NSAI, which you mentioned I was a member of, the National Songwriters Association International. If you are interested, especially in really looking at your music and not just throwing something out there, but really tweaking it and revisiting it and working with it more in a directed fashion. As a member of NSAI, I've been able to do that with a lot of my music. And for some things, I'll take suggestions and not take all suggestions, but it's been a good thing for me to do. I think belonging to that organization has been very helpful. I'm not a big fan of books on songwriting and things like that. It's sort of like I play golf too, and it's sort of like taking golf lessons. I think that's the worst thing that ever happened in my golf game.
Yeah.
Was taking golf lessons. So.
Tell us about this song that we're going to hear. What inspired it?
Well, I mentioned James McMurtry, and I really like his style and the type of music he plays. I write a lot of songs that aren't the happiest kind of songs, but they are story songs, so with a lot of imagery and whatever. The very first artist I ever heard that made me want to be a songwriter intensely was Guy Clark. Guy Clark was a singer-songwriter out of Austin, Texas, who wrote LA Freeway and Desperados Waiting for a Train and all kinds of other songs that were hits by other people. But James McMurtry writes songs about, just the darker side of Americana. This song I wanted to write as being something that was in that vein, but having a positive spin on it, kind of. So I refer to it as a story about an outlaw who commits a good deed.
Tell us a little bit about what you have going on for the rest of the year. Anything exciting for the fans?
The biggest thing I have coming up that I'm excited about is I've decided to, along with all the live stuff that I do, I get invited to several, singer-songwriter showcases and things like that. But I've decided to, in my retirement, to give back a little bit by offering my services as a songwriter and to help aspiring songwriters to do presentations at local libraries here in Western Pennsylvania. And I'm going to be doing several of these throughout the year. What I'll do is it'll be a kind of a combination of talking about the songwriting process, how I go about it, what my inspirations are. It's called, the presentation's called Inspiration Everywhere. I will give some examples and then play some of my songs as examples of some of the things that I do and where the inspiration comes from.
Okay, that's pretty cool. Tell you what, let's take a listen, then we'll come back and talk some more. Okay, Greg?
Great, thanks.
All right, check this out, everybody. Here we go.
Turned off the main road to a small little town, one church, an old pub, and no lights. Pulled up to the bar, left his keys in the car, and brushed off the lonely old night. He caught a ride and decided to move to an empty stool next to her seat. He asked her name, she said it's all the same as whatever you wanted to be. He wasn't searching for an angel to be saved, but he found one just the same in a town too small for a name. that she had a small room upstairs and they could have a drink there, where the dim light revealed what her dress had concealed, the marks of what made her so scared. He offered to help, told her run to my car and ride with me to the next town. She laughed through her tears and she said, my poor dear, there's no other town within sight. He left all alone, just like when he got there before. $50 lighter, enough to provide her, left it there inside her door. Made his way back to the highway again, a smoking gun on his back seat. She couldn't come along, but he righted her wrongs as her fears lay dead in the street. Yeah, her fears now lay dead in the street. He wasn't searching for an angel to be saved, but he found one just the same. In a town too small for a name.
You've probably met a lot of people in your years in the industry and in all your live gigs. Any other influences you want to share?
Yeah, besides Guy Clark, who I also got to meet, unfortunately, he passed away some years ago. People like Ian Hunter, of all people. For those of you who can't remember that far back, Ian Hunter was the lead singer for Mott the Hoople, which was a big band who had a song called All the Young Dudes, which ironically he didn't write. But I got to meet Ian and talk to him a bit, seen him a few times. I never met Mark Knopfler. Mark Knopfler is another one who I have a lot of admiration for. Great story songs like Romeo and Juliet and Wild West End and, of course, Sultans of Swing. And one man in particular who's no longer with us named Chris Whitley, who I admired not because I really emulate his style so much, but that he showed me how important it is to take risks and think outside the box when it comes to songwriting and not necessarily follow the rules that everybody puts out there for, what's radio friendly, quote unquote. And I always admired his style, especially because I could never, when I tried to talk about him to other people, I could never really put my finger on exactly what it was when they asked me what kind of music it was that he played. It was kind of blues, it was kind of Americana, it was kind of rock, it was kind of who knows what. But I thought he was a genius. And I actually got to spend quite a few times with Chris Whitley. He did some soundtrack work. He was on the Thelma and Louise soundtrack. He was on the So I Married an Axe Murderer soundtrack.
Oh my God, I remember that movie with Mike Myers. That was funny.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, wow, what a blast from the past, yeah. Okay. Do you have any advice on touring?
No, not really, because I have a kind of a Steely Dan approach. I'm more of a studio musician and singer-songwriter than I am playing out, as it were. I did a lot of coffee houses and things like that throughout the college years. And now I play about once a week, and I don't do it to be out there all the time. Most of my sharing of my music is done through streaming. I have several releases that are on all the major streaming sources through DistroKid. I play out. I enjoy playing out, especially when it's with other songwriters, because I think we all learn from each other and pick up things here and there. I picked up a chord progression from one of the other songwriters here in Pittsburgh, and I told him I stole his progression, and he said, "Well, don't worry about it. I stole it from Jimi Hendrix." So.
Yeah. All right.
So I enjoy playing out more so for the camaraderie and just, the feel for the audience and things like that. And it's taught me to play different things for different venues. I've written well over 200, 300 songs, and some are better to play in bars than they are in coffee houses or showcases or what have you.
People are always experimenting when they're songwriters. Is there something you're experimenting with, you're dabbling in, trying to do something you've never done before?
I do most of my production here at home, and I use GarageBand, and I use something called Band in a Box. And Band in a Box is an app that allows you to, it's very sophisticated. It allows you to just put in a chord progression that you come up with and then set it to whatever genre you want. And a different kind of band will play it out for you. And what that's allowed me to do is expand into other genres that I normally don't write in because I can't. For example, I can't play bluegrass, but I love bluegrass music. And there are a couple bluegrass options on Band in a Box. And so I've been able to write some bluegrass songs. I love mainstream jazz and have been able to write some jazz tunes, instrumentals, thanks to Band in a Box. So using some of the technology that I have available to me, which isn't expensive at all. Of course, GarageBand is free if you have an Apple product. And Band in a Box, I think I paid $100 for, and it's amazing what it can do for you. And you can take instruments out, put them in, bring them up and down, and what have you. And so it's allowed me to really experiment with some things that I haven't been able to do otherwise.
What's your most unexpected source of inspiration for a song?
I think chance meetings of people and all kinds of people from all kinds of different walks of life and things that they say and listening to their where they come from. I love talking to people. If I'm in a taxi or an Uber, I make sure I strike up a conversation with the driver because I'm always learning about them and things that are important to them. People on planes. I used to have to travel a lot for the last job that I had. I found myself having a lot of conversations with people on planes. Those are great ways to get inspiration. Probably the most unique thing for me that I've gotten inspiration from is certain works of art. There's a song that I wrote called Happy and Helena. It's about a clown and a high wire act female that have a love affair that goes sour. And it came about from looking at a photograph from 1957 by a photographer named Bruce Davidson. And it was this very stark photograph of a rainy circus area with a tent to the side and a clown holding a bouquet of flowers and smoking a cigarette. And it just looked kind of pathetic. And I thought there's got to be a story in this picture. And so since I wrote that song, I've been seeking out other photos and works of art that help me get inspiration as well.
Okay, awesome. So tell us a little bit about your website, your platforms, where people can buy and stream your stuff.
If you just look for Gregg Stone on any of the major streaming services, you'll see several both lyric-based and instrumental releases. The song that you heard is a single that was released in January, and I've enjoyed doing that, just streaming things out. I'm going to be spreading out the word more on the single, especially A Town Too Small for a Name, to radio stations. I'm going to go old school and go away from streaming for something and release this to radio stations that I have a very long list of that play Americana and country-based music that are non-commercial stations, especially that have a little bit more open mind when it comes to their playlist and have them enjoy the music and share it with their listeners as well. What I do is I have a web-based mobile app, actually. The last job I had was working with a mobile app company that taught students how to build mobile apps. And so I took that technology to build a mobile app that can be based online. And I actually hand out business cards when I play out in clubs and what have you. With a QR code on it, and people access my site through the QR code. Otherwise, it's a pretty complicated URL to come across. But if you just look for Gregg Stone on any of the streaming services, that's Gregg with 2 G's, 3 altogether, you'll find my stuff.
Awesome. I want to thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
I appreciate you having me. I've enjoyed it very much. You ask great questions, and I look forward to sharing this with everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone out there tonight. Thank you for spending a little bit of your precious time with us. If you're a songwriter with a story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Go over to songwritershow.com and submit the interview request form. To all the listeners, we hope this episode has inspired you to explore your own stories through music. My name is Sarantos. Please join me every single Tuesday evening to hear other awesome artists share their fascinating behind-the-scenes stories right here at the Songwriter Show on Reality Radio 101. Have a great night, everybody. Love you all.
The stars were lighting up, your touch was all I know. You say I'm a dreamer, how'd you figure that out? Was it the look in my eyes? Was it the passion in my heart? You say I'm a dreamer. Stay, I'll never break your heart. You say I'm a dreamer, how'd you figure that out? Was it the look in my eyes? Was it that passion in my heart? You say I'm a dreamer. Am I such a dreamer? Just because I need her. You say I'm a dreamer. I'm glad you figured that out. When you look into my eyes, you can see what I'm dreaming about. Sometimes I like to dream about that perfect life where you and I can be husband and wife. Where you and I can be in a private paradise. I'm a dreamer. I'm a dreamer. Just a silly dreamer. I'm a dreamer.
Thank you for listening to The Songwriter Show. To keep the momentum going, head over to www.songwritershow.com and join our free music community of artists, songwriters, and producers. That's www.songwritershow.com.